These kinds of accusations were damning in the eyes of the JP community. Legally speaking, I don't think Palworld is going to win this. This is a follow-up video to my previous video about the Japanese reaction to PocketPair being sued by Nintendo for alleged patent infringement, specifically to do with their game Palworld. On the whole, the response from the Japanese community was rather positive to my video, with many in the comments elaborating on their particular thoughts on the whole entire situation. So while my first video was about the Japanese reaction, I did get a few comments accusing me of being biased against Nintendo and painting them in a bad light, and that if I had just explained a little bit more, then that would be enough to convince the rest of the world that they are in the wrong for supporting Palworld. So here is that video, with every bit of information that I can find about the whole Nintendo Palworld thing, including information that isn't that well known in the West. This information may change a few minds out there on who they think is right or wrong, so let's get started. Palworld was a breakout hit, with a total number of players surpassing 25 million after only 1 month of release on both PC and Xbox consoles. On the day of release, gaming news site Automaton released an interview that they had with PocketPair CEO Takuro Mizobe, in which he described Palworld as an open-world survival craft game with the added element of monster taming collection. It also takes significant inspiration from real-time strategy and automation games. You build bases and your pals work autonomously to support you. I think that these mechanics are quite rare in 3D games. And when asked more specifically about the various inspirations for this game, he lists titles such as Terraria, The Forest, Sons of the Forest, Conan Exiles, Ark Survival Evolved, and of course Minecraft, as well as Valheim, the indie title Raft and Rust, along with the sandbox titles such as Astroneer and Scrap Mechanic, and games with novel mechanics such as Sunkenland. But when asked more specifically about his fears about Palworld causing controversy regarding its monster capturing system, he says, "I'm aware that the Pokemon series is the overwhelming leader in the monster taming collection genre. Pokemon is so good that I'm afraid to even try to compare it to Palworld. And although we did reference the Pokemon series as a great predecessor of its genre, Palworld feels completely different as a game, which I think people will realize as soon as they play it. I would even say that Palworld is a lot more similar to Ark Survival Evolved in terms of game mechanics." And about any particular legal issues, he says, "We have absolutely no intention of infringing upon the intellectual property of other companies. We have undergone legal reviews, and at this moment there have been no specific actions taken by other companies." And at the time of issuing this statement, that was true. There had been no legal action taken against Palworld. That is until 8 months later, when Nintendo issued this statement about patent infringement, but we'll get to that soon. But before then, it's not like Nintendo weren't aware of Palworld. Palworld has been on Nintendo's radar since the very beginning, with Nintendo releasing a statement talking about other companies' games less than 1 week after Palworld was released on January 25th. In the initial statement, they say, "We have not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon intellectual property or assets in that game. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to the Pokemon." To which nothing was heard from them for several months. Then later in July, Sony Music, Aniplex and PocketPair announced a joint venture to create a new company, Palworld Entertainment Inc., to expand on the franchise. Through this new joint company, they intend to expand commercial business endeavors, including the global licensing and merchandising activities associated with Palworld outside of the interactive game. Just 2 months after this announcement, Nintendo made their declaration with intent to sue. On September 19th, 2024, Nintendo released a statement saying that they are filing a lawsuit for infringement of patent rights against PocketPair Inc., the developers of the hit game Palworld, which was released earlier that year on January 19th. The lawsuit seemed particularly timed to kill Palworld before it even got started on expanding. Regarding the lawsuit, it's important to note that this is about patent infringement, not about copyright infringement, i.e. regarding the designs of certain characters. So despite all the comparisons about how the characters look similar or take certain inspirations from Pokemon designs, that is not the legal challenge being issued at this time. At the time of writing this video, it still hasn't been officially confirmed exactly which patent Nintendo is claiming that PocketPair infringed upon, but the leading theory is this one, patent 7545191, which was applied for on July 30th of 2024 and was registered on August 27th and then issued on September 4th. However, there's a bit of misinformation out there about the recency of this particular patent. Many people are saying that this is a brand new patent, which isn't exactly true. It's what's called a divisional patent, which is a type of patent application that contains isolated content from a parent patent that has already been registered previously. These types of patents are usually implemented to split up a larger patent that describes multiple technologies. This new divisional patent more specifically describes the mechanics of capturing Pokemon with processes such as aiming a capture item, a Pokeball, at a character placed on the field, i.e. Pokemon, releasing the capture item in the direction determined by the player input, judgment of whether capturing is successful or not upon contact between the capture item and Pokemon, changing the Pokemon status to owned by the player when capturing is successful. It also covers the mechanic of having capture probability displayed to the player either by use of colors, graphics, or numbers. However, a Japanese patent lawyer by the name of Kurihara Kiyoshi from the Kanazawa Institute of Technology, who specializes in intellectual property and advanced IT technologies, referred to these particular kinds of patents as killer patents, saying if you wanted to make a game similar to Pokemon, it would be incredibly difficult to avoid these kinds of patents. So if you're not careful, you could easily infringe upon such patents. And Nintendo is no stranger to registering these kinds of patents either. In total, they have 8,551 patents globally, with 6,990 of them being granted and almost half of them being in Japan alone. A little side note that despite Nintendo being known for being incredibly litigious when regarding their patents and copyright, they aren't the worst offender. That crown goes to Konami for things like patenting the ability to see through walls to see your character, but that's a story for another video. Getting back to this topic, this recent patent filing was surely filed as a way to take action against Palworld, and I don't think anyone really disagrees about that. As I mentioned before, this is not a new patent, but a divisional patent from a larger parent patent. The parent for JP7545191 is patent 2024-031879, which is in turn a divisional patent of JP7505852, which is also a divisional of the original parent patent JP7398425. which was filed all the way back in December 2022 of 2021. So this particular mechanic has been patented for almost 3 years at this point, with the same drawings describing the capture mechanics as mentioned before, but that doesn't completely clear Nintendo. Palworld released their announcement trailer back in June of 2021, albeit the graphics are incredibly rough compared to what they are now. However, the core gameplay mechanics of an open world survival game using cute monsters to fight and help build your own town is still there. Either way, this announcement trailer was released in June of 2021, and this parent patent was filed 6 months later in December of that same year. So it's very plausible that this original parent patent was filed in anticipation of Palworld. Regardless, given that Nintendo was able to get the patent for such game mechanics before even the early access release of Palworld, I don't think Palworld will be able to win that particular legal battle. But I'm not a lawyer, so we just have to leave it for the courts to decide. Turning back to 2024. After Nintendo released their statement about their intent to file a lawsuit regarding patent infringement, PocketPair issued their response. Regarding the lawsuit, yesterday a lawsuit was filed against our company for patent infringement. We have received notice of this lawsuit and will begin the appropriate legal proceedings and investigations into the claims of patent infringement. At this moment, we are unaware of the specific patents we are accused of infringing upon, and we have not been notified of such details. PocketPair is a small indie game company based in Tokyo. Our goal as a company has always been to create fun games. We will continue to pursue this goal because we know that our games bring joy to millions of gamers around the world. Palworld was a surprise success this year for both gamers and us. We were blown away by the amazing response to the game and have been working hard to make it even better for our fans. We will continue improving Palworld and strive to create a game that our fans can be proud of. It is truly unfortunate that we will be forced to allocate significant time to matters unrelated to game development due to this lawsuit. However, we will do our utmost for our fans and to ensure that indie game developers are not hindered or discouraged from pursuing their creative ideas. We apologize to our fans and supporters for any worry or discomfort that this news has caused. As always, thank you for your continued support of Palworld and PocketPair. When PocketPair made this statement, there was a flood of support on the English version, but they got roasted in the comments and quote retweets by the Japanese community. I recommend you to watch my previous video for a more in-depth look at the Japanese response, but in a nutshell, the majority of the comments didn't like that PocketPair was positioning itself as a small indie company under attack by the bigger company. Especially as, regardless of what everyone thinks about Nintendo abroad, in Japan, Nintendo is seen as a good company that doesn't go after indie developers for patent infringements. On the topic of whether PocketPair is an indie developer or not, since PocketPair has had such a great amount of success and then since been able to make connections with big companies such as that previous joint venture I mentioned at the beginning of this video, in the minds of the Japanese people that makes them no longer an indie company, so they didn't really like them putting that particular part in their statement. Many were saying that PocketPair should have just started by apologizing to Nintendo first and foremost. The reason for this is, as I mentioned in my previous video, that many people feel like the developers of Palworld weren't being sufficiently respectful to the series in which they see as being the biggest inspiration for their game, with many people calling it a blatant Pokemon ripoff. So when they mentioned that part about them being a small indie game developer, the Japanese community didn't want all other indie companies being painted as being equally disrespectful by association. As I said in my previous video, respect is held in extremely high regard here in Japan. And so with the size and legacy that Nintendo currently has on the world stage, but particularly in Japan, they feel that they should be much more respectful to them. So when Nintendo says you're infringing on our patent, the expected reaction of a Japanese company is to tuck tail and say, sorry, my bad, how much do you want from me to use that patent? Even when they haven't stated exactly which patent it is that they have allegedly infringed upon. Further evidence among the Japanese community of PocketPair's disrespect towards Nintendo are certain tweets made by Mizobe, the CEO of PocketPair, who gave the interview as I mentioned before. This is one of the tweets in which he is replying to a friend. His friend said, I played way too much Pokemon. To which he responded in a way that is actually down to interpretation, even in Japanese. It could be read as, how was Pokemon? Was it interesting? I thought you didn't like playing stupidly hard games. Or more maliciously as, how was Pokemon? Was it interesting? I thought you didn't like playing shitty hardware games. As in games that are physically sold as opposed to the download-only software options. And it's this second interpretation that many in the Japanese community took from reading of that. I tried finding the original post for that tweet, but it seems that it has since been taken down. But then there is also this tweet from Mizobe which reads as, AI has evolved so much that I can't tell which ones are actual Pokemon anymore, with AI-generated monsters on the left and official Pokemon on the right. The idea is that he is disrespecting Pokemon and its designs by saying that they are comparable or equal to uninspired AI-created designs. Though perhaps one of the biggest pieces of evidence for PocketPair's disrespect for the Pokemon franchise is by a user on Twitter who claimed to be the designer for the Palworld in Palworld. There is this tweet here with 6.9 million views, 52,000 likes, 12,000 retweets, and almost 10,000 bookmarks with screenshots of what that person wrote. And this is what they all said. Someone said that Palworld's designer must be drinking really good sake right now. No, right now I'm unemployed drinking water to avoid spending money. Job searching has become traumatic for me because this is the first company I ever joined. I had a dream of becoming a monster designer. I wanted to become a monster designer and create games that would entertain users, but that dream is gone now. You get it, right? If you listened to the Palworld supporters or saw how bad the designer bashing was, I got instructions from Palworld's CEO to plagiarize. I wasn't told outright to do so, but there was pressure in a much more roundabout way to do so by the people in charge. People would ask me things like, is this Pal based on Snorlax? It was just a doodle I drew that just happened to look like Snorlax. I was never told to make a design that would rank in the top 100 in the Pokemon popularity rankings. When I was designing, they were always compared to Pokemon. I tried to make the monsters look more like Fakemon, but the Pals that were used or modified based on my designs were all Pokemon chimeras. When I talk about Palworld, I get so scared that my hands start shaking. The trauma still comes back to me. I'm not a victim like other people. I've endured moral harassment in the workplace. In-house, I'm a commissioned designer, but I've endured it. I was told to copy and I was receiving harsh support. When I said I didn't want to copy, my pay kept decreasing and it was painful. Retakes were free, but even after doing it 10 times, they were still free. It was painful. Painful. I didn't want to do it anymore. I said I didn't want to plagiarize, but my monsters would change to be more of a plagiarization. The CEO asked me if he could modify it, but I would have never given my permission if I knew that they would turn out like that. The monsters that have a lot of my particular style in them are also being called rip-offs. I watched as they were getting flamed online with the others. It was painful. Help. Give me back my kids. He's talking about his designs here. PocketPair bought the copyright, so they have them now, but give me them back. The pals with a little bit of my design in them. The pals that are based on my original designs. Delete them all. Please do it. I beg of you. It hurts. I tried to find the original tweets, but many of them have been deleted since then, and it's really difficult to find because this person tends to tweet quite a lot. I tried to get confirmation, but I couldn't find out whether they were actually the designer for the pals or not, but in the end, it doesn't really matter. JP Twitter believed and ran with it. The accusations that they were being instructed, or at least very heavily pressured to, design characters that were rip-offs of Pokemon, and if they didn't, they would have their pay reduced, etc. These kinds of accusations were damning in the eyes of the JP community, regardless of whether they were confirmed true or not. And that was everything I could find so far. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. Now, seeing as I've gone through all that, I thought I would do something a little bit different and directly address any Japanese viewers that may be watching. Well, I was going to do that at the end of this video, but it's getting long enough as it is, so I'll be making a follow-up video to this follow-up video talking directly to the Japanese community. What I'm going to do in that video is, just like I have tried to explain to the English-speaking community what the Japanese perspective is and why they are upset with Palworld and PocketPair in particular, regarding this whole Nintendo Pokemon thing. I want to try and do kind of the opposite and explain to the Japanese community why the foreign community is more in support of Palworld. I saw many comments in my previous video about particular misconceptions I think they may have had about what the rest of the world is really in support of. So I just want to really clarify things about this particular situation. So if there's anything that you want to say as to why you particularly support Palworld in opposition to Nintendo, then let me know down in the comment section below. Or how about you let me know about if your opinion has changed in any way, shape or form after watching the whole entirety of this video. I'd be curious to hear that too. So until next time, I will see you in the next video. Peace.